therefore, what I have done as part of this book is to go back to the fall of the Mughal Empire, the decline of the Mughal Empire, after the sack of Delhi by Nadir Shah in 1739. And the fundamental question that I have asked myself is, has the loss of state power resulted in loss of consciousness as far as a particular group is concerned? Or have they managed to reinvent themselves and come out through multiple movements? Because you see, whenever you talk of Pakistan, the earliest we are able to go to is Syed Ahmad Khan. But Syed Ahmad Khan himself is the product of a larger movement and merely one representative of one particular strand of thought in that particular movement. That he was the product of a particular seminary which is based out of Delhi, which is called Madrasa-e-Rahimiyya, which is where I think the history of Bharat takes a very crucial turn from 1740 onwards. The history of that particular seminary, coupled with the kind of individuals that were produced by it, along with all the movements that each of them gave birth to. At least 6 movements post, I'd say, the fall of the Wahhabi movement were given birth to by people who were disciples of that particular seminary. Syed Ahmad Khan was but one of the disciples. And therefore, you end up knowing more about him simply because he established an institution called the Aligarh Muslim University. But beyond that, there is not much to be understood. So, which is exactly why what I've done is, if Venkat Dhulipala starts from 1937, my book ends in December 1924. So I am actually showing that the thought and the beach and the seed of Pakistan has come into existence well before 1937, at least by December 1924. But the germ for that particular seed and the thought process started in 1740 at the very least. That is the thesis of this particular book. And therefore, the only perhaps similarity between my book and Dr. Ambedkar's approach is that both of us speak like lawyers through this book, which is to say, if this is the position, where is the evidence to support it and back it up? That's it. So most of the book covers that. But since this is a continuum as far as the previous book is concerned, how do you relate both the books? The first book effectively looks at the Christian European line, starting from, let's say, Christopher Columbus onwards until the first Government of India Act of 1919. In chapter 6 of that book, I've already hinted at the possibility of a different scope, where I've spoken of Middle Eastern coloniality in chapter 6 of the first book. But since that concept was merely touched upon and not given sufficient treatment, I realized that it would make no sense whatsoever not to discuss it further, because you are not going to be able to discuss the Constitution without touching upon partition, and partition was not an overnight development. In which case, the central question that I would end up asking myself is, did the partition make any difference to the thought process of the Constituent Assembly when they were discussing the Constitution? The Constituent Assembly effectively comes into existence in May 1946. When did Direct Action Day take place? 16th August 1946. So while the Constituent Assembly was discussing the Samvidhan, people were being butchered left, right, and center in Bengal and Punjab. So were you even cognizant of the motivations behind this, that the two-nation theory was actually playing itself out on the ground while you were discussing this constitution? This is the question that I'm trying to ask. The other, let's say, question that I'm trying to take a serious pot shot at and hoping to bust it completely is, every time we discuss the partition of Bharat, allow me to be blunt here, which is the stupidest answer that is given is the British did this thanks to their divide and rule policy, as if everybody else was innocent. Now, you're dealing with adults. So if someone is dividing and ruling you, clearly there is a pre-existing division that he is taking advantage of. So the point that I'm trying to make here is he did not create a division, he merely exploited a pre-existing division which outlasted their advent by at least 1,000 years. And therefore, I'm trying to ask myself, did they actually consciously collaborate with each other to lead towards the partition? Was there a conscious handshake between the British mindset and, let's say, the Shah Waliullah Dehlavi mindset? This is the question that I'm asking.